Good morning, my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ and here is your detailed forecast update for February 7th, 2025. We're going to go right into depth with the rainfall and the flooding situation across far North Queensland, with significant falls reported overnight and more rainfall still on the way for locations between Townsville and Cairns. Significant falls also expected across other remaining areas of the Cape York Peninsula and North Queensland in general. We'll touch on the tropical cyclone situation offshore from Western Australia, with a big cyclone now on the forecast, and we'll talk about the variabilities in the forecast there. All of that plus more coming up in today's weather forecast. If you're brand new to the channel, please consider subscribing, but let's get stuck straight into things this morning. Up in far North Queensland, significant rainfall and thunderstorms still ongoing as the morning breaks across North Queensland and the Cape York Peninsula. You can see into the Gulf of Carpentaria some really significant thunderstorms have been bubbling away all night, as you can see on the convective satellite imagery here. And on the other satellite imagery, you can see plenty of thunderstorms as well rotating around this low pressure system and around into the Townsville area now. Plenty of rainfall overnight as well. About 120 to 140 millimetres has fallen again overnight in the Townsville area. That should be the heaviest rainfall that they receive now for a good couple of days minimum. Also some really significant falls around Bowen, where they've picked up another 100 millimetres overnight. We've had some great falls around the Whitsundays and Proserpine over the last 48 hours, with totals now ranging up to about 250 millimetres down there. But again, for locations south of Townsville, the real rainfall is now beginning to ease off, and we'll get to that in the forecast in just a few moments. But you can see in terms of the radar imagery over the last 12 hours, it has been quite a wet picture across much of North Queensland, with some very strong thunderstorms, strong showers moving through. That's kind of how it blew up last night, was just showers moving through from the Cape York Peninsula, and it kind of just went up from there. Plenty of showers and thunderstorms in the vicinity, and some really good falls also reported around the Mackay area. And as you can see, as we push this radar imagery through here throughout the remainder of last night, it was just steady rainfall for the most part around the Whitsundays and the North Queensland coastline. It was just steady to intense rainfall through there, so some significant falls have been reported, and I expect that to be the case, or I expected that to be the case, and I expect there to be some significant flooding as a result of that, with already a lot of river levels now breaching minor to moderate flooding alerts. And I do expect the Horton and the Burdekin rivers to catch a lot of that water and then head up back towards the moderate or even the major flooding alerts up there. So some really significant falls will certainly contribute to the flooding situation up in North Queensland. Anyway, so that is enough on the recap in terms of what has happened. What's going to happen over the next couple of days is a little bit different to what the forecast has been saying over the last few days, but over the next couple of days we're still expecting some pretty decent falls. The majority of them are going to be between Cairns and Townsville. Here's a look at the current picture of what the Eastern Reef is expecting here. We've got that low pressure system offshore from Bowen that's going to be drawing the rainfall offshore throughout the remainder of today. Now, in similar fashion to last night, we're expecting plenty of convective activity to occur, creating the showers and thunderstorms across North Queensland, inland from the Cassowary coast, and then heading north across the Cape York Peninsula. Now, these showers and thunderstorms will head into the Atherton Tablelands and begin to drop some significant rainfall accumulations there, with isolated heavy to locally intense falls expected around parts of the Atherton Tablelands and into the Daintree rainforest. Significant rainfall observations as well are expected into the Harvey Range and the ranges outside the Cardwell Range as well, outside of Cardwell and Ingham, and some significant falls there cannot be ruled out before a low pressure system gets itself directly offshore later on tonight, and then we're going to be seeing some significant falls around the centre of that low pressure system connected to the monsoon trough. Now, what I mean by that is, once this low pressure area gets itself out to sea, we're going to be seeing a funnel of rainfall rip around on the southern and the eastern side of this system here, and that's going to feed right into North Queensland. Just considering its location or the storm's proximity to the coastline, you can see significant rainfall accumulations are possible there, with heavy to locally intense falls expected along the North Queensland coastline, most likely between Cardwell down towards Townsville much later on tonight into very early tomorrow morning. These significant falls here will amount to triple figure rainfall accumulations. There's pretty much no two ways about it, but whether they amount to triple figure rainfall accumulations in Townsville is still a little bit of a wild card, considering by all estimations on the forecast models, at least right now, this low pressure system does impact Townsville, but it does keep far enough away from the coastline as to where it isn't a significant rainmaker for Townsville itself. Significant rainfall will still continue throughout Saturday morning and then pipe up against Saturday night into early Sunday morning as another low pressure system gets itself off the coastline, and again significant falls funneling in on the backside of this low pressure system expected to move into the Cassowary coast between Innisfail down towards, or probably even a little bit further south than Ingham, right down to about Townsville later on at Saturday night and into early Sunday morning. And then this rainfall here will begin to steadily ease off. It will still remain heavy through Sunday morning and into Sunday evening, but it will begin to steadily ease off by the looks of things throughout the remainder of Monday and into early Tuesday. Heavy falls will still be possible from showers through Monday and Tuesday across the Cassowary coast, especially as you get further north around the Tully and the Innisfail area on the Cassowary coast. Significant rainfall accumulations are still possible on both Monday and Tuesday, but for the most part the worst of the falls will happen on both Saturday and Sunday before clearing out Monday afternoon and evening. We're still looking at some pretty significant rainfall accumulations as well. The bulk of the rainfall will occur between Cairns down towards Townsville, but kind of excluding both sides of that there. Cairns isn't expecting too much rainfall from this weather event here over the next couple of days, and the same deal for Townsville as well. I would be surprised. I don't really expect Townsville to pick up more than about 200 millimetres over the next 4 or 5 days, which is a much better forecast than what we were looking at yesterday, but still some significant rain on the way, and they've had some very significant rain over the last couple of days, so that will cause some flooding problems, that's for sure. But yeah, the bulk of the rainfall, like I said, coming through Saturday night, throughout Sunday and into Monday morning and Monday afternoon around the Innisfail, Tully, Cardwell and Ingham area, with the heaviest falls expected between Cardwell and Innisfail beyond Saturday night. We're expecting some heavy falls as well tonight. We can't be losing sight of that, with the heaviest rainfall around the Cardwell and the Ingham area, and considering it will be a slow-moving belt of showers and thunderstorms, I'm expecting falls there to be well above triple-figure accumulations, and as such we could be seeing widespread falls tonight between 120 and 180 millimetres between Tully down towards Townsville, and with isolated pockets of rainfall up to about 250 millimetres expected overnight into the 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. So again, some significant rainfall accumulations are still on the cards, and we cannot be losing sight of that right now. Rainfall accumulations for the next 5 days out to the end of this so-called rainfall event here, which will be likely Tuesday evening and into Wednesday morning, are still quite significant. You can see here peak rainfall accumulations outside of Tully and Cardwell up above half a metre here, 500 millimetres on top of the 300 millimetres that they've had over the last couple of days, and also on top of the 1,000 to 1,500 millimetres that they've had so far this month. So some significant rainfall accumulations on top of what's already happened will cause some flooding problems around the Tully area, and I'll get to the flooding forecast in just a second. But let's start from the north and head south and talk about rainfall accumulations community by community. Cairns, I'm expecting about 200 millimetres further to still fall there. Again, a lot of rainfall expected Saturday night, Sunday morning, and then into Sunday night, into Monday morning up around the Cairns area. In fact, I'm really expecting some good falls there later on Sunday and into Monday morning, and we could be seeing up to about 200 millimetres around Cairns, and a little bit more as you get further south into the mountainous areas around Gordonvale. Mareeba, Atherton and Ravenshoe expecting about 200 millimetres a pop, likely a little bit more as you get further south, but again, I reckon 200 millimetres is a good number for those communities, and the rainfall will be penetrating quite far out inland, considering a lot of the showers are going to be coming through in a more of a convective nature as opposed to blowing up off the coastline and then funneling into the coast and then getting just wrung dry by the mountains. Considering they're going to be forming inland, I'm expecting accumulations between 120 and 180 millimetres over the next 5 days for inland communities around, as well around Mount Carbine, Mount Surprise and Cheligo as well, and even down towards Georgetown and Forsyth as well. I'm expecting some good rainfall accumulations there. The real deal though will be along the Caspro coast, and again right along that coastline there south of Innisfail through Tully and Cardwell. I'm expecting about 500 millimetres per location there, with the heaviest falls around Tully or around South Mission Beach. I'm expecting up to about 600 to 650 millimetres. Some really significant falls are expected there, which will contribute significant water amounts to the Johnston and the Tully rivers that flow through Innisfail and Tully respectively. Some good falls also expected down on Hinchbrook Island, then further south of Cardwell through Ingham and Halifax. I'm expecting about 300 to 350 millimetres apiece down there. Some significant falls there will contribute to the Herbert River's flooding as well, and considering as you trace the Herbert River upstream, you're looking at rainfall accumulations out here up to about 300 or 400 millimetres. It really does paint a pretty ugly picture for those currently being inundated by water along the Herbert River. It really is not a good sight to see as well. Further south through Rollingston, then down towards Townsville, expecting about 200 to 300 millimetres there along the coastline, with isolated falls up to 500 millimetres expected at Paluma Dam and Rollingston themselves, just considering of their very exposed nature and the fact that they are definitely going to be on the southern side of this, and also will cop the low pressure system that will slide down the coastline tonight into tomorrow morning. I'm expecting some significant falls there, and I wouldn't be surprised if 24-hourly accumulations from now amounted to about 300 or 350 millimetres around Rollingston and Paluma Dam, whereas most likely accumulations there will be more widespread between 150 and 250 millimetres between Cardwell down towards Townsville for the weather event that's coming through tonight, or the rainfall event rather that's coming through tonight. I reckon Townsville will pick up about 150 millimetres on top of what they've already picked up here. I don't see a world where they pick up more than 250 millimetres. That would be very unlikely right now, but depending on what happens with showers and storms, I mean, the forecast models have certainly been on the low ball side for this weather event so far, so I'm not writing off a 250 millimetre plus accumulation for Townsville at this time. I would not be absolutely shocked if that happened, but at this time it doesn't look awfully likely at this time. We're going to have to wait and see what rainfall actually does form on the radar sometime Saturday, Sunday and Monday, because that will have a big part to play in terms of how much rainfall is expected, because whilst they're expecting some good falls tonight up to about 100 to 120 millimetres, with isolated pockets around Townsville expecting up to about 180 millimetres tonight, especially as you get up towards Blue Water Creek, those sort of areas, the accumulations there should not be too high through Saturday, Sunday, Monday and Tuesday, especially once you get Monday and Tuesday out of the way. Not expecting too much in the way of rainfall after that. Guru and Air, probably about 100 millimetres a pop there. I'm not expecting too much rainfall there. Inland out towards Charters Towers and Ravenswood, the bulk of the rainfall came through last night, and again, whilst 100 millimetres is still possible over the next 5 5 days. That's not really significant rainfall anymore, and I'm not expecting too much in the way of heavy falls down there. Proserpine, Yalborough and Gargett should be the wettest locations on the Whitsundays and into central North Queensland. I'm expecting about 200 to 250 millimetres there over the next 5 days, but then coastal locations will pick up substantially less rainfall, between 80 and 150 millimetres, and likely a lot less than that as well. I expect Mackay to pick up a further 40 or 50 millimetres on top of what they've already picked up. The rainfall now for North Queensland and the Whitsundays definitely starting to ease off at this time. It is now pretty much an exclusive far North Queensland Cassowary Coast weather event, with a little bit of rainfall stretching out into North Queensland down to around Townsville and Bowen. But yeah, significant falls now beginning to ease off across the Whitsundays and into the more central parts of Queensland, which is very good to see. It means that this weather event is now on the way out. Very, very happy to see that. Looking forward, I want to put a couple of people's mind at ease, because this rainfall, it really feels like there's no end in sight, just considering it is still occurring here. And whilst there will still be more rainfall across the extreme northern areas of the Cape York Peninsula, and heavy falls are still expected into the Daintree rainforest through Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, there is not another rainfall event that I can see, at least on the forecast, for a very, very long time. We're talking late into February, into early March. Unfortunately for North Queensland, March to May is looking very wet at this time, with a 55% chance of above average accumulations up there. And dare I say, in my forecast, it'll probably be a little bit higher, up to about 70% chance of above average accumulations across a wide swathe of areas across far North Queensland. So whilst the flooding season is not over yet, the immediate risk of flooding is beginning to draw to a close, but you still have a couple of days of significant rainfall on the cards, so do not get complacent. This is often the time where people get complacent and end up really badly off, injured, or property being destroyed because they've gotten complacent, because the weather is beginning to ease off. They've got excited for the dry days that are to come, and they start venturing out and start removing sandbags around their property just in hope that the rainfall will stop, and that will catch a lot of people off guard. So whilst sunny breaks are still expected, yesterday was a nice sunny day in Townsville for the most part until the evening, there is still very significant rainfall on the cards, and there's going to be a lot of heavy rainfall in the vicinity as well. And I don't really like how a lot of people are now looking at 400 or 500 millimetres on the forecast, which used to be classed, or a couple of weeks ago would have been classed as some very significant rainfall across North Queensland, now thinking, that's nothing, because it is nothing in comparison to what's already been received up in North Queensland, but it is still a very significant amount of rainfall. And given that the fact that the rivers, which we'll get to right now in the flooding forecast, the rivers are already flowing very hard and very fast up in North Queensland, it does not take much to add some significant levels to them. So expecting significant jumps in the water levels across North Queensland throughout the remainder of today and throughout the remainder of this flooding event here. Whilst I'm not expecting anything significant in the Russell River in terms of flooding, I'm expecting some really powerful waters to move through the Johnston Rivers, both the north and the south one flowing through Innisfail. Some significant rainfall contributions there out in the Atherton Tablelands will likely drive that up to the moderate or even the major flooding alert if it's not at that level already. The Johnston River certainly has struggled with water accumulations over the past couple of weeks, and it is definitely going to get another belting, that's for sure, with some significant falls expected up there, and as such plenty of flooding also expected into the Johnston River. The Tully River as well, expecting significant flows through there, expecting some major flooding through the Tully River as it flows around Tully and then down towards South Mission Beach, so some significant water volumes expected to move through there, and adjacent creeks and valleys as well, expecting some flash flooding towards riverine flooding there, especially from Saturday night into Sunday morning. The flash flooding risk will be very high, and then from Sunday morning the flooding, or the riverine flooding risk, will start to increase as well. The poor Herbert River, I mean, I've never seen the Herbert River hold this water level for such a long time. It's still at major flooding in Halifax, and it's dropping agonisingly slowly this morning. It will likely dip below the major flooding alert later on this afternoon and into early this evening, but it's not going to go far below it, and then it looks like plenty more rainfall is going to feed into the Herbert River from tonight into early tomorrow morning, so do not get your hopes up. Significant and sharp rises in the Herbert River can be expected, especially around Trebon, and then down towards Ingham and Halifax as well. Significant rises in the Herbert River can be expected, and whilst they're not expected to exceed the water levels that we've just had from the flooding event, so places that haven't been inundated or have escaped flooding so far are likely to continue to escape the flooding, we're still expecting some significant water levels to move through there, and it is not safe right now around the Herbert River to begin removing sandbags and getting yourself cleaned up from this flooding event, because there is still more water to flow down there. Further south in some of the creeks adjacent to the Queensland coastline down through Rollingston, then down towards Townsville, expecting some significant water volumes to move through there. The Bowley River as well likely to exceed moderate flooding alert throughout the remainder of this morning, and then it will likely continue to drop off as the day goes on. And whilst significant contributions to the Bowley and the Ross Rivers are expected to continue to occur tonight into early tomorrow morning, for the most part we're not expecting anything dangerous in the way of life-threatening flooding. The Horton River as well expecting major flooding to continue there. It is beginning to drop off now down towards a moderate flooding alert, and I do expect that to continue to occur throughout the remainder of today. And the Burdekin River as well beginning to very slowly ease off, but some dramatic flooding has taken place there, and I expect water levels to continue to rise around the Charters Towers areas at least temporarily over the next few hours before they begin to drop off there. And then I don't see too much in the way of contributing water that will cause significant flooding across much of the Burdekin River. The really struggle the Burdekin River has, and it is a testament to how big the river is, just how much water is moving through the Burdekin River. But at this time, some really significant falls have occurred in the Burdekin catchment, the Burdekin River, and they have struggled with the water level and the water management there as well. The Proserpine and the Piney Rivers no longer a flooding threat, which is very good news, at least for central Queensland. Very happy to be able to report on that, because it is good to know that some rivers now are no longer a threat. I mean, it's very relieving to hear, that's for sure. But yeah, that basically does it in terms of the rainfall forecast for North Queensland. It's a very long-winded one. It's a very big one. If you've got any questions or comments, then feel free to let me know in the comment section down below, and hit me up on Facebook as well. I'd be more than happy to answer your questions or see your videos and photos as well of the flooding and the flash flooding up there too. Anyways, it is now New South Wales and Queensland time. We've got plenty of rainfall on the cards here by the looks of things over the next 14 days, but we're not going to have time to get through this in this forecast update here. I'm just keen in the thunderstorms are going to fire up throughout the remainder of this week. We are expecting severe thunderstorms across the Gippsland region of Victoria, and the chance of some pulse thunderstorms extending through the southern half of New South Wales, right into the western half of the state as well, Broken Hill area later on tonight into this afternoon. Nothing too crazy expected, but then powerful thunderstorms expected to fire up between a line of Wanaring down towards Wollongong, which will include areas such as Orange, Dubbo, and then out towards Cobra. And if you play the forecast throughout the remainder of tomorrow, significant thunderstorms expected into the southeast of New South Wales around Bega, Mallacoota, and then Canberra and Captain's Flat as well, and some significant thunderstorms bringing damaging winds, large hailstones, and heavy rainfall also expected into the central to the northern parts of New South Wales as well. And we could be seeing a couple of showers move through the Sydney area later on tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow evening and into tomorrow night. Sunday, expecting those thunderstorms to continue across the southeastern corner of New South Wales around Bega and Mallacoota again, with some powerful thunderstorms possible around the Albury area, and then strong thunderstorms tending to severe thunderstorms at times up around the Tamworth, Inverell, and Narrabri area as well. A couple of thunderstorms expected to jump the border into southeast Queensland too. The rainfall will actually continue across the southeast corner of New South Wales and into the northeastern corners of New South Wales, into Victoria as well. And actually, we're expecting some heavy falls to begin from Monday and towards Tuesday as well. And I'll touch on these in detail in tomorrow morning's forecast update. But by the looks of things, we're going to be seeing some kind of east coast low type system wrap itself up, or similar to that, we'll be seeing an onshore flow in terms of showers and thunderstorms expected from Monday and in towards Tuesday, at least on this forecast model here. Other forecast models are suggesting it, but in terms of timing and whereabouts this system is going to be, there's still some major discrepancies between the eastern relief, the GFS, the Axis, and also the Icon forecast model as well. And whilst rainfall accumulations are still expected to be heavy, regardless of where this weather event does pop itself up, we don't exactly know where the heaviest falls are going to be, where the damaging winds are going to be, and where the low pressure system is going to set itself up. So still the forecast is quite uncertain for this system at this time. But just a heads up, it looks like it's going to linger for quite a few days. It could drag a couple of thunderstorms down into the southeast of Queensland. So certainly something worth keeping in the back of your head if you live in New South Wales right now, especially for locations north of Sydney up to Coffs Harbour. We could be seeing some heavy falls there sometime piping up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. So interesting stuff, that's for sure. Certainly something to keep us on our toes as a forecaster. Let's head over west now. Whilst the heatwave threat has eased off for WA, we've certainly got the cyclone threat. It certainly is starting to get quite busy, that's for sure. Now, it's finally been apparent to us that Tropical Cyclone Talia is just never going to intensify into a powerful tropical cyclone. That makes perfect sense because it is just such a disorganized and messy system because of wind shear. But Vince has stolen the show, that's for sure. Take a look at Tropical Cyclone Vince over here, well out of the Australian area of responsibility, and you can see Tropical Cyclone Talia is now pretty quickly moving across to the outside of the Australian area of responsibility as well. But Tropical Cyclone Vince, a beautiful system here, situated halfway between Australia and Madagascar, and it is of course a Category 4 strength severe tropical cyclone on the Australian scale, and likely to get a little bit stronger than that. Whether it gets to Category 5 status or not that it has any bearing on the Australian forecast or the Australian situation, but this system is certainly intensifying still, and it certainly has a pretty promising future ahead of it. Talia, on the other hand, has cool sea temperatures and significant amounts of wind shear to be battling, so it's really going to struggle as a tropical cyclone, which is quite unfortunate. I was very hopeful for Talia to make a good impression here, especially offshore from WA. It was going to be a photogenic system, and it looks like, as you can see on the forecast models here with Vince over here and Talia, just that massive mess of a system. It doesn't look like anything significant is going to come of Tropical Cyclone Talia, which, I mean, we should have seen as a forecaster. I should have seen the wind shear forecast on this, but again, I didn't have time to check Tropical Cyclone Talia. If I did, I'm sure I would have realized that this system was going to become an absolute bust. But yep, we called powerful system, and this system has completely fallen flat on her face. Still, the forecast models are wrapping it up, coming around the 14th or the 15th of February here as a tropical cyclone careens into the WA coastline, but again, not looking very hopeful for tropical cyclone Talia, that's for sure. Now, what do I mean by careening into the WA coastline? Well, it looks like the eastern wave is spinning up some kind of small boogie-like system offshore from the Kimberley region in just 3 days' time on the 10th of February here. So on Monday, we're expecting a tropical cyclone to develop, and then this system here rapidly intensifying and moving straight over Port Hedland as probably a category 3 or 4 strength severe tropical cyclone. And I would like to say that this is not going to happen. I mean, if anyone is saying that this is going to be happening, then they're on something, they're smoking something. Tell them to put down the bong, because this is not going to happen. The Bureau of Meteorology has said that this is a very low chance of formation. We don't really have a low pressure system currently trying to wrap itself up either, and whilst there is plenty of convection now moving into northern parts of Western Australia here over the Kimberley region, this has absolutely zero organisation to it whatsoever. And I'm going to see if I can show you what I mean here in terms of the radar imagery. It's just a low pressure front kind of moving through the Kimberley region, bringing showers and thunderstorms, and it looks like the radar imagery is going to take a long time to load in. But if a tropical cyclone, especially a powerful one, is going to form in 3 days and head into the WA coastline, because keep in mind this is only going to have 3 days to form and intensify and then slam into the WA coastline, which is not unheard of, but you'd be expecting to see the signs of that start to develop now, with a low pressure system beginning to develop. And yes, I mean, if you really want to nitpick, it does look like there's rotation in just the way that the radar is moving, especially in the earlier frames of this radar loop here, but that's just because it's a massive monsoonal low at this time, and this is just a big thunderstorm that has blown up here. There's nothing in the way of tropical cyclone rotation or even tropical low rotation as a result of this weather event here. And whilst you can see a low pressure system kind of initialized on the forecast here, not right now of course, but you can see a low pressure system initialized on the forecast here. It's over in the Northern Territory. There's no other model support for this system as well. I mean, the GFS is not calling for anything in the way of tropical cyclone activity, and the GFS is a much more reliable forecast model than the ESMLBF is. And even the Axis, which favors tropical cyclone development, whilst it calls for a tropical low, it's still not calling for anything significant in the way of what the ESMLBF is calling for. And I've seen a lot of the shit on Facebook about this tropical cyclone moving into Western Australia, and it really pains me to watch it, because it's like, it's not going to happen. And as a respectable forecaster, you should be able to tell that, because this frame here is in 36 hours time, and not 36 hours, this is in 72 hours time rather. This is just not going to happen. And again, a powerful tropical cyclone like this would take plenty of time to develop offshore from the WA coastline. Even though it's a small system here, the environment is just not favourable for it. So I would like to put everyone's mind at ease by waffling on about this system that's not going to happen for 2 minutes, and that is not going to happen. There is, however, the chance of a tropical cyclone much later on into the forecast period. The GFS is calling for a low pressure system to wrap itself up offshore from the Kimberley and the Joseph Bonaparte Gulf, and there is a slim chance that this gets up towards tropical cyclone status sometime in its lifespan here. You can see it actually moves offshore from the Kimberley coastline. It takes its sweet time, but this is exactly how I'd expect a tropical cyclone to develop offshore from Western Australia by Wednesday or Thursday or Friday, even the 19th, 20th or the 21st of February respectively. It looks like this system is going to make a go at life well offshore from the WA coastline here, and it depends on what conditions it has. I mean, it's still way too early to tell if this has a favourable setup in for it, but it looks like it might have a go at the West Australian coastline. But again, we're looking very long range here towards the end of February and even in towards early March by the looks of things here. So whilst there is no chance of a tropical cyclone in the next kind of week and a half of the northwest coast of Western Australia, we cannot be rolling out tropical cyclone activity into the back end of February and into the first couple of weeks of March, considering we will be well and truly into a high energy period by then. But yeah, that is a long-winded forecast update. I hope I've answered everyone's questions in terms of the weather for especially Queensland, but also over in New South Wales, Victoria and Western Australia as well. If you've got any further questions or comments, please do leave them in the comment section down below. A special shout out to the channel sponsors. Their names are on screen right now, and again, thank you so much for 25,000 subscribers. The support has been unbelievable throughout the Townsville weather event, and I do feel awful for them up there, but it is really good to have had the reach that I have had. It's definitely helped a lot of people out, and if you have been helped out as well, feel free to send me a message as well and give me an update on your location. I'm wishing everyone all the best up in far North Queensland for a speedy recovery and a resilient rebuild up there. It certainly will be a very, very tough time for them up there, but I know that they can do it, and I know that if there's any place that can flood and they can be rebuilt in such quick time and such an effective nature, it is of course up in far North Queensland. I'm very, very hopeful for them, that's for sure. But that is all from me today, and I'll catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.